ready for our next couple of runs. In a moment, it'll be Outer Wilds 100% by The Strange Pie. And following that, a Deep Stone Crypt run in Destiny 2 by the raid team of Munch Koopas, Bystander Tim, Shockwave, Scooby Foo, Trader Kirk, and Tokigi. Yeah, looking at our donation total now, I see we've passed that mark of $777,777, which I have arbitrarily decided is of some importance. So congratulations, everyone. I have a couple of donations here. Just wanted to recognize some of our international viewership. Got one here from Azat, $50, saying, my third year watching GDQ, loving it so far. Good luck to all the runners. Much love from Melbourne, Australia. Thank you, Azat. Much love back to you. And I also have a donation here of $50 from SPLN, who says, I'm still impressed after all these years watching GDQs to see so many amazing runs and runners. From known games to some hidden gems, that's something really cool I enjoy from GDQ events. As always, keep up the good work for such a noble cause. Greetings from Reunion Island. And without any further ado, it is time. I hear we are ready. I'm going to send you to the Outer Wilds 100% by The Strange Pie. The stage is yours.
Hello, thank you. I'm The Strange Pie. I'm going to be running Outer Wilds 100%. I'm joined by Beef on commentary. She is the second place runner and also helped with the routing. One quick note before I start. Since this is a game about exploration and discovery, it's pretty sensitive to spoilers. This is a 100% run, so I will be visiting almost every location. So I will be calling out which planet I'm about to do, and when I'm about to do the ending, in case people want to avoid spoilers. But yeah, without further ado, timing's going to start when I press E to wake up, so I'll do a countdown. 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so right off the bat, we have trick here. This game is frame perfect double jumping, and we're never going to use that again.
Let's try.
Okay. So first of all, what is 100%? It's based on the ship log rumor mode, and basically we have to get every card, every entry, every permanent entry under every card, and all of the connecting arrows. So that's what 100% is. And we play the game in Russian because it's the fastest language for translating Know My Text. We do quite a lot of.
The first objective in this game is pretty much in almost every category to get these launch codes. You can't get to the ship without it. You can also jump while talking. You're going to see that a few times. This little statue activates a time loop. Oh, I didn't get it. There's a little jump where you can jump right as you hit the trigger for this, and you cover ground while you're frozen in time. But we just missed it. It takes like a second. There's lots of dialogues and readings in this that are not things you would need in any other run. We did a specific dialogue with that last character, and with this character as well, we're going to do another specific one. We can also jump off a cliff while talking to him. Pretty silly, but our goal is to die twice. Every time you die, there's a little bit of time lost to this little animation here, and so we want to do the minimum number of times needed, but we need to unlock sleeping, which is unlocked after 2 deaths. So we're going to jump into fire here too.
Go for a swag strap here. I didn't get it.
Doesn't save time, but it looks cool. Just a flex, really, that you know exactly how long that fire takes.
Alright, so here's the first real loop. We're going to be doing Giant Steep first.
One of the few that we don't sleep for in the beginning. We like to sleep at the very beginning of each loop a lot of the time because it aligns the planets. And in our loadless timing system, we freeze the timer while we sleep. The first objective here is not the planet itself, but the orbital probe cannon. So this is one of the few times where you'll actually be in 0G, out of the ship. So the jetpack movement is a little wonky, but obviously Strange Pie has experience with this. He's flying diagonally to take advantage of both his forward and up booster at the same time, and that gives him a little bit more acceleration. there's no atmosphere, which means you can't slow down like a car would and just slam the brakes. You actually, well, okay, you can crash into things and slow down just fine. But otherwise, you need to actually decelerate just as long as you accelerate it, just like in real space flight, except much smaller. The first we see are these little eyeball door marker things. They follow your cursor. So here's another one. There are specific things in here we need to read and things we don't need to read. And there's also only specific text on those things we read. So he's only going to read one thing here, and he's going to move that eyeball to another terminal. As soon as like the first frame that all of the text is translated, you can look away. So that was the first of 3 modules on the orbital probe cannon. The other one is coming up right now, and it's the puzzle with this one is that it's been exposed to the vacuum of space. So there's no door to get there. You actually have to play the game like a sandbox should be played and go into space and come back in. The third one actually went missing, and spoiler alert, close your ears. It fell into the core of Giant Steep, and that's the last place we're going to go on this loop. Pretty good, and we're going back to the ship. Luckily, the programming works out just perfectly that cannon is always in the same alignment every time in our runs. So we know exactly which direction to fly to catch up to this tower in the North Pole. This is the Tower of Quantum Trials. So if you play this game, you know that quantum objects are kind of wacky. They follow a few different, very strange rules. One is that they look away when you look away from them, and they move away when you look away from them. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's gonna lose some time. Nothing too crazy. There's no cycle that we have to catch with.
I need to go around.
Yeah. Yeah, about the quantum objects.
Can't really see where I'm going.
There you go. There are rules.
The fuel ran out.
Wait, that should do it. This is some exploration
A
of
bit
its own here.
unfortunate, but it doesn't really throw off the rest of the loop, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is something that we usually don't have
this
to
is
catch.
the part where it actually does the wall.
You might want to get fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah, this tower is all about the quantum objects, which there are trials in this one. There's a Tower of Quantum Trials, a Tower of Quantum Knowledge. The other one's not a tower, but it's still helpful. And this one teaches you about the rule of quantum imaging. So the whole idea of the puzzles in this tower is that you can take pictures of a quantum object, and it won't do its normal action of moving when you look away.
Look safer this time.
Yeah, and you'll notice him shooting that object out of his little gun there. That's a scout launcher, and the whole point of that shooting is a little bit of a boost in the opposite direction. It's a little bit of a sci-fi quirk that the scout gets launched, so there's an opposite reaction that pushes you, but it doesn't launch back into you, it just gets warped. So there's no force the other way. Okay, here we go. And you'll see the scout boosting right here. You can't normally make that jump. And he looks away from that gate, and it spawns behind him. And of course, there are little things here and there to read that we've memorized. Oh, nice. That was another trick where he looks into all of the places where the gate could be, and once they've all been locked out, he goes to the only place the gate could be left. But he has to look away from it. So he does it backwards. Coming up on the last one. This one's the crazy RNG one. Let's see. Ooh, perfect RNG.
Pretty good RNG.
Those crystals. Yeah, those crystals can be in any configuration on that wall, and those crystals control the gravity. So you want those crystals to be on the top half of the wall, and then it'll just stick you to the wall. Sometimes they spawn like 2 on the bottom, and you have to jump all the way to the bottom of the tower. But that one worked out pretty well. We've done the north pole, and now we have 4 islands to knock out, and then we're going to go to the core.
And the cycles are messed up, so I'm just gonna have to improvise.
Yeah, this is a very cycle-based game, and particularly this loop is not so much about like cycle-based doors as much as the fact that these islands are always moving. And so coming in early or late will change the position of each island. Normally they're optimized in such a way that like to minimize the travel time between them. This will be like the old school strats where I just ran around and looked for them. Okay, here's statue.
Yeah, the route got thrown off, unfortunately, but
this is a little area that you can't access unless you come in through the bottom. So
wait, I'll just have to remember which islands I've done. This is not the normal order.
scout boost there. That's not a jump you can normally make. The scout boosting is super powerful. Especially on this planet, the gravity is so strong on this planet that it becomes necessary to extend your jumps. Other planets, the gravity is not such a big deal. Oh, you're gonna get launched.
Well,
Super old school.
that's fine. It's just,
It almost saves time in this situation.
actually that does save time because I didn't have to turn my engine back on. I've done that.
Few more islands. You'll see some more. That's the one we were hoping for. So there are these little walkways on this island. This is Construction Island. And the walkways act a lot like those gravity crystals in that they change the direction of gravity. He's going to use this to slingshot. Ooh,
That can
unfortunate.
happen.
Yeah, so there's collision in this game. And you sometimes get sucked into that floor when you expect to get sucked slightly to the left. There's a really cool slingshot jump you can do normally, but that happens sometimes. Thankfully, the game is pretty marathon friendly. We can just fly directly back to where we were and just finish the section.
The good thing about this actually is that now we're at the start of the loop, so I know where all the islands are.
That's true, actually, yeah. They're pretty consistent. They get a little bit more random as the loop goes on, but it's never too crazy to know.
Also, now I don't really need to aim because I don't need to slow down. I can just use the atmosphere. But I want to be on the opposite side of this planet, so I'm gonna aim to the side.
Yeah, this planet has the thickest atmosphere, and also you can also just plow into the water on this one as well if you want to be on that side of the planet.
I don't want to die to this twice, so I'm gonna play it a little safer.
Grab that stone. So each little stone here has some transmissions between two different groups of this ancient civilization that died, I believe, like 400,000 years ago, some 100,000 years ago. And this is basically a translating tool that we're using.
That actually is a pretty common place for me to die in runs.
Yeah, it's wild. The gravity fields in this are so random, and the intended path for this is just to walk across it. You're not supposed to jump all over the place. So sometimes you get sucked into the ceiling, sometimes you get hit into a wall. Just Gabbro left, and then we're going to the core.
Okay, that's convenient.
Oh, that is super convenient. So I'm going to assume that you've probably stopped watching if you care about the spoilers for this planet. The way to the core in this case is there's a bunch of cyclones that you've probably seen, and they're all going clockwise except for one. The counterclockwise cyclone is the one that will send you down rather than up, and that takes you to the core. Oh, this thing hates you. There we go. Don't know why it does that. And then this is one of the biggest RNG components in the run, these jellyfish. They move consistently, but their starting points are random. So sometimes you can catch one right as it's going down. So you can hitch a ride on it through this electric shell. And sometimes you can only catch ones that are really high up. This one's not bad.
You probably have time to read at least one donation before I get down there.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, sure. Okay, I'll make it a short one here. Tim gave us $100 for Doctors Without Borders. Thank you. Saying, can't wait for Outer Wilds. Probably my favorite game of all time. Let's get Halo 2. Congrats, Tim. Your wait is over.
This is a great game. It's unfortunate how spoiler heavy it is, but once you've played through it, it's a lot of fun to watch.
I found that it's really consistent if you just don't move.
That actually makes sense, yeah. If the range is good enough. There's like a range on those little eye orbs, and each one's a little
I'm
different.
just waiting for these texts, so I'm kind of just... I'm not really in a hurry at this point.
Yeah. I'd probably do one more donation.
Okay, here is $250 from the Archangels. Y'all are great. Doctors Without Borders is great, and Halo 2 is great. So let's make it happen.
Alright, that was a bit rough, but that's fine. So the next thing we're going to do is the Sun Station and the Twins. So you can read some more donations. I'm going to sleep for just under 5 minutes in game time.
Not 5 real minutes, don't worry.
You got it. All right, a $50 donation coming at us here from Rob Teaches. Rob says, you've got this, Strange Pie. Stay out of the sun. Been looking forward to this run for months now. Thanks to everyone at GDQ for an amazing event. Also have $100 here from Hal PLM saying, had to donate during Outer Wilds. I've been looking forward to this being run at GDQ since it launched. The speedrun has come so far, it's amazing. Let's hit $1 million tonight, and please put this donation toward Runner's Choice.
I like how that guy said stay away from the sun, and we're about to basically jump into the sun.
Yep.
So the sleeping in this game specifically moves the time loop forward, because everything's on a cycle. There is a warp gate here that only opens at about, I believe it's like 5:50. So we like to sleep as late as possible so that we can get there and get to that warp tower right as it activates. Strange Pie's sleep time there was pretty normal. The gravity will change a little bit if you sleep too little or too much. So we're doing what's consistent, and we're just gonna sleep for the normal amount of time. You can also get ambitious for sleep for 5 minutes, but that's hard.
Yeah, this loop I actually need to get all the way to the end of the loop, so it's kind of bad if I fail this, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, so this is
There's some
Cactus Flight.
backup strats.
Cactus Flight is not intended, but it's fun. Oh. Nice.
Easy.
That saves like a minute. Because the intended strat is just to walk in when the sand is dropping, but then you have to wait longer for the tower to actually activate. The
A lot of
pretty
people
precise
ask why
thing.
don't you fly directly to the sun station, and the answer is because we need that text in the tower. Since we're already in the tower, we might as well just use the warp.
Yeah, it works out pretty nicely.
That pause was to conserve in-game time to make the next cycle a little easier to make.
There's a pretty inconvenient thing that can happen if you hit a very specific timing here, which is you warp back to the planet and then immediately get sucked back to the sun station again. Loses like probably almost 10 seconds, but we dodged it.
Well, I had a really cool backup if I failed Cactus Flight, but didn't have to do it.
Expertly done.
So
This
we
is
don't
the
need the
last.
ship anymore. Just
Yeah.
gonna leave it here.
Last you're gonna see of the ship. For this loop.
For this,
Oh.
yeah.
A lot of the routing in this has kind of become use the ship when you have to, and then just leave it somewhere and do the rest of it shipless. Obviously, the ship is faster, but getting into and out of the ship is pretty slow. So yeah, we grab our fuel and we leave.
Here I'm going to go for a pretty hard jump. I'm only going to go for it once.
And jump, log. Well done.
Nice. That's pretty difficult.
Yeah, those are really tough. It used to be, we used to approach it the wrong way and it was super messy, but I found a pretty consistent way to hit. Those sand pits are always pushing you down super hard, and we just have to get enough momentum to get past it. And again, just reading everything that's necessary to read and skipping everything else. Another puzzle in the game that's supposed to be a tricky environmental puzzle. You're supposed to like shoot a light in here and follow the light, but you just know where to go.
Also, that I just shot my scout at the floor. That was actually get a log.
Yeah, that's required. You have to shoot at the floor once. Pro strats. And this conveniently goes right back to the surface and to another objective. Run used to be a lot longer when we didn't know. This was kind of before my time, but we used to actually not know which things we needed to read. And so the slowest 100% run on the leaderboard is like 3 hours long, and there's a guy with like a route doc, runs around and reads everything. So obviously a lot more optimized at this point. And he's setting up.
There's actually a cycle here. If you see the pillar, you see I'm actually gonna have to wait because I was too fast.
Survived.
So that means I was really fast. Usually you get there late enough that that's not a problem.
Yeah, this is a really clean segment. So we've got another quantum thing going on here. This is the lesson of
This
quantum
is actually a
entanglement.
sequence break.
Yeah, it's a sequence break. Get into a bright room, which is not how it's supposed to work. That rock can be used to teleport effectively. The lore behind it is that when someone is touching or just on a quantum object and ceases to be an observer, so turn off the flashlight, you're in pitch black darkness, they're also quantum. And so when you turn your light back on and look around, you're going to be somewhere else entirely.
That sequence of things I just did might not have made any sense, but it's just a setup for this out of bounds.
Oh yeah, we're going out of bounds. This is probably the weirdest thing in the run.
Yeah.
Just props have to be in specific positions to deload some collision, and then you can just get under the planet, go straight to this thing. High energy lab is usually held back by a door that's only open for like, I believe 10 or 20 seconds. And the old route used to be like, cram as much content as you can into the route before those 5 minutes are up to open the door. But now we can just skip the door.
Right, that was actually a pretty good planet. But I'm actually going to be doing a lot of sleeping here now. Oh, bad.
That's unfortunate.
But anyway, like I said, this is a good time for donations because I'm just going to have to sleep a really long time and talk to Chert.
Yeah, this will be 20 minutes of sleeping.
Got it.
In-game time.
Yep. Wait. I love the idea of it being real time and just giving me a heart attack. Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna read really slowly for you all. Here's a $50 donation from Feldspar. Outer Wilds is one of the best and most emotionally impactful games I've ever played. Great to see it at GDQ. Best of luck, Pie.
So here I'm actually sleeping for a good planetary alignment, and then I'm going to sleep the rest at Chert. But yeah, back to donations.
Yeah, and we also received $250 from Stunami. Thank you very much. Got another $250 donation from JoJo's Story, who says, gotta go fast to 1 million. Let's get that bonus game. Also want to say I'm loving Mr. Game and Shout on prize duty. Awesome work. Here's $145 from TNT. Hey SGDQ, first time donator. I had to donate during Outer Wilds. This game is like my baby, and I'm really happy to see it ran during this amazing event. Best of luck to the runner.
That beeping meant my ship was probably going to explode. I didn't see if the reactor was damaged or not.
We don't need it, though.
Have a
So basically, Shirt has different dialogue depending on how far you are in the loop. So I'm gonna have to sleep, pretty long time here.
Did you already talk to him once?
So yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Or no, I didn't.
Oh.
Yeah. It's not the right one. Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
Because yeah, I died like on approach. So.
Oh,
You can
right.
read more donations.
Yeah. Here's $160 from DeBone Man saying $100 for the Outer Wilds 100%, plus $10 for every phase of Deep Stone Crypt. Wish I could wipe my memory and play Outer Wilds for the first time again. And here's $40 from Eric. Had to donate for one of the best games of all time. So glad to see Outer Wilds being played at GDQ. I have $50 here from Stephen B. Outer Wilds was easily my favorite, my game of the year from 2019. Such an amazing sense of exploration and unbridled discovery, almost unmatched in any other game. Extremely excited to see the 100% route. Good luck to the Strange Pie on the run. $50 here from Dr. JM. Halo hype. Let's get that Halo 2 run, y'all. Finish the fight. Wait, wrong game. Thank you, Doctor. Have some people weighing in on the Fire Emblem Three Houses bid war for house coming up like tomorrow in the marathon. Ollie, $50. Deer House, Best House. Thanks for all the great games shown at GDQ this summer.
I have time for one more.
And Harriet chiming in, $25. Gotta have the Blue Lions. Therapy House is the best house in the game. Thanks for everything you do, GDQ.
Okay, so there's one other thing I need to do in this loop after the final Shirt dialogue, which is to go back to Ashwin and read a text that is now uncovered, that was not uncovered when I was there earlier.
A little bit of shipless action here.
Yeah, it's just not worth it to go back to the ship.
There's actually, we have a lot of subcategories in this game, and pretty much every category has a shipless version. Shipless hundo is a thing, and I believe the record's like an hour and a minute, I think. What it is?
Yep, something like that.
Yeah, and Pi has that record. Pi has most records.
So, other than the death, that was pretty clean. And so next, what I'm going to be doing is Brittle Hollow, and we do Quantum Moon on the same loop as Brittle Hollow.
There's a pretty cool trick you'll see. It's not really a trick. It's just
But
a very interesting
this
routing.
loop is pretty short.
This sets up a little arrow break through the atmosphere.
Yeah, so the first thing I'm going to do here is go to Hollow's Lantern, and this sleep sets up a good approach for Hollow's Lantern.
So the weird thing about this loop, other than the fact that Brittle Hollow is just a wacky and there's a big black hole in it, is the Quantum Moon. It's kind of the culmination of the lessons we've learned on Giant Steep and that we just learned on Ember Twin, that you can take pictures of quantum objects and that can entangle yourself with quantum objects by being in darkness. We're going to do both of those with the Quantum Moon. It's effectively... Oh, it didn't fall on it, at least. Sometimes that leg gets stuck on the piece there and you can't actually pick it up. So the Quantum Moon is actually orbiting all of the planets at the same time, but you can only see it in one place at a time. And that's a pretty major RNG element here, is we're gonna have to blink for the Quantum Moon once it's time for it. But you can't actually touch down on the Quantum Moon until you take a picture of it. If you try to land without taking a picture, it just disappears. And then once you're on the quantum moon, there's a tower that you use to teleport between the different systems of the quantum moon. And you need to do the quantum entanglement by turning the lights off in that tower as well. So we're going to use both of those things in the quantum moon. Before that, though, it's just some cleanup of things that are on the surface or close to the surface. And then the rest of Brittle Hollow will be after the quantum moon.
Yeah, these things just don't route in well. A lot of the routing for this planet is based on fuel, because we're going to be doing a lot of crazy jumps later.
Oh yeah, this is definitely the hardest.
Also, inconveniently, the two best places to refuel route in like really well right next to each other. So
pretty crazy. There's the inside is hollow, right? So it's basically like it's almost like you have out of bounds all the time, and the only optimization you can do is like jumping from one point to another point. How long does the jump take? Will I still have fuel? One more quantum object, and it's time.
I took a picture of that so it wouldn't move. And I'm gonna go for the quantum moon. This is like the second biggest RNG thing in the run.
Also fuel.
Yeah, it's a bit.
Yeah, we're just gonna open and close the map over and over again. This is basically like, how do you describe this? It's kind of like closing your eyes and opening them. You change your observation. Eventually the quantum moon should spawn, and you can see it behind. Well, you can't see it, but you can detect it behind the planet there.
Yeah, this is not a very good spawn, but that's okay.
Didn't refuel, by the way.
Need to look at this corpse.
There's a lot of triggers that are actually just looking at things rather than reading them. That's one of them there.
I scanned the quantum moon, but you don't actually need to do that in this category. It's just muscle memory from other categories.
A little out of bounds here. It's why we like the Brittle Hollow moon state in general, is because of these out of bounds you can do. There's another one that you can do in other categories.
That trick is
just
actually a lot more broken in other categories. I blinked past where I wanted to be.
there you go.
That's actually really bad RNG.
Yeah, it doesn't get much worse than that. RNG has not been incredible for this run. RNG is responsible for like a good. It can be responsible for like a good 3 minutes if you get really unlucky.
Luckily, that's the last really big RNG element in the run. There's some smaller ones still.
We like to when we're doing actual normal run attempts of this, we like to do the big RNG first. So Brittle Hollow and Giant Steep have the two biggest RNG sections in the Jellyfish and the Quantum Moon. So we usually do those first in whichever order. So there's like a bunch of different combinations of these stones you can use to unlock different dialogues. A lot of them here, but we only need 3 of them. Or 4. It's 3. And then once we've read everything, we just...
There's 2 reasons we do Brittle Hollow here. One is that the out of bounds just happens to be here, and the other one is that we can now use the shuttle to get back to Brittle Hollow. If the shuttle will spawn.
The shuttle wants to be nice. There you go. Yeah, this shuttle actually belongs to that Nomai we just saw. And there's a recall function that takes it straight back to its launch pad. And the launch pad, of course, is on Brittle Hollow. So we're back here now.
That was a bit awkward.
Coming up is a pretty impressive jump. There's something called the Tower of Quantum Knowledge that we're about to see. And it's not exactly... The intended strat in the actual casual playthrough for this tower is to wait until the very end of the loop until it collapses and falls into that black hole. And then it'll come out a white hole and there's no gravity. But of course, we don't have time for that, so we just jump across the black hole and slingshot directly to our destination.
That's pretty clean.
That was really clean. That jump used to be really hard. just got better, I guess.
Yeah, I figured out if you slow down and just try to get as much vertical velocity as possible while canceling your forward velocity, it's a lot more consistent.
Yeah. Talking about like micro in this game just kind of sounds like we're like space nerds doing rocketry. Oh, the velocity. This is my favorite skip, probably. Yeah. Just have a conversation with Ryback while jumping into a black hole. It's fine. You actually don't even need to finish that chat. You can continue the conversation from the other side of the black hole. Which is, I'm pretty sure that's a paradox, but whatever. We made it to the white hole, and there's another bit of reading here, and it'll actually warp us back to Brittle Hollow again. And there's a very convenient
That's the
refuel there.
refuel.
Yeah.
Feels actually really tight here.
Yeah, we cram as much as we can into the moments after this refuel, and we're usually like almost running out by the end of this loop. So this is a little shortcut directly into Hanging City. Normally you have to go through Ryback's camp or go through some bridges and stuff. This way we just jump in through the surface. And it's very convenient that it's right next to that landing pad from the warp earlier. Jump down there and raise the black hole forage for another skip later on. By later on, I mean in like 15 seconds, but
Hit these stairs.
the mean stairs. There's
Yeah,
the
the black hole
forge.
forge needs to be at the top for you to get into it, so that's why we raise it.
And then there's the intended strat for that one involves like trips to 2 different planets and a bunch of waiting, but of course, you just jump up there.
Yeah, I'd like to say that you can jump anywhere in Brittle Hollow from anywhere else. You have the good setup.
So, little gravity floor here on the ceiling, and we're this whole area right here is actually pretty like high APM as far as like picking things up and putting them down.
Oh yeah.
Kind of fun. We're coming up on our last crazy jump here. Oh, that's scary. If you're off the gravity floor by like an inch, there's a good chance you get sucked back down into the black hole, but dodged it. And now this is the last jump. We're jumping straight from the North Pole to the South Pole. This is the observatory, and it's the last thing on Brittle Hollow. So we just jump up directly. And the scout boost adds a lot of longevity to this jump. And now we're here. 2 more things to read. And as soon as it's read, we can put it out. And there's the fuel tick. We just got notified of our low fuel. So yeah, missing even 1 trick in this section is a pretty good way to run out of fuel at the end.
So this loop, we're going to be doing the Owl Rock and the Interloper. This is actually the only difference that I'm going to do between this run and World Record strats, because there's a sleep in this loop that saves about 10 seconds with our timing method, but it's slower RTA.
We'd sleep an entire extra cycle. It's like a 10-minute sleep, right? 9 minutes. Oh, here's Poetry Slam, by the way. If we get lucky with the positioning of the objects here. There's this poetry you're supposed to read.
Always do Poetry Slam now. You can manipulate, these trees are quantum. So if you put them off screen, they move. So you can manipulate the trees to get out of your way.
And there's this poetry that you can straight up just read by bumping your ship into it. You don't even have to get out of the ship. And we go straight to the Idle Rock. That geometry is pretty convenient for hard braking. It doesn't kill you, but it does stop you pretty fast.
So again, we're just going to leave the ship there, like typical routing, and just come back to it when we need it.
That's actually one of the more recent changes to the route. We used to actually get back in the ship and fly to the other side, but in hindsight, it's a really tiny moon. It's a lot of time to waste to jump into and out of the ship an extra time.
Alright, so this loop is going to be really short. It's just to set up for the interloper flight, because we need to get close to the sun to get inside.
It's another major cycle, is the interloper opening and closing based on how close it is to the sun. Got plenty of time.
Played it safe.
Interloper is always really weird to optimize because there's no atmosphere, which means you can't brake as quickly. But it still does the thing where when you get close to a planet, thrusters get nerfed. So there's no...
I'm not confident of my speed, not braking my ship there, so I'm just going to miss on purpose.
Yeah, and that lines you up.
Plenty of time.
Well, fortunately enough, there's something we need to read on this side of the comet. So, and we don't need the ship. So like, we're basically just slamming
I can
into
break
it
the
to
ship.
brake.
Actually just broke her, so that's interesting.
It'd be fine on time though. It stays
That's
open
the kind
for
of
a long time.
interesting, strange things that can happen in this game.
Yeah. Interloper is just so hard to optimize because of those random spines that you need to bump into, and super hard to brake, super hard to land. And you need to get to the opposite end of the comet. You can't just land on it, you have to go to the other side. Very strange. But
That's still
we have
early
time.
from playing it safe, so
Yeah. Just on cue, it's gonna open up.
there we go.
This is a little,
Just as it opens.
basically a maze is what this is. There's a feature of this game that we haven't interacted yet with called ghost matter. It's completely invisible except to cameras, and it kills you instantly. So the whole point of this area is to test your knowledge of how to... Oh, that is
That's
so
not good.
unlucky. I've never seen that.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that. I think I bumped off of some strange collision.
That is crazy. But yeah, that was the ghost matter. If you hit it, you die. It's a thing you normally have to deal with a little bit casually, but we just kind of avoided all of it so far. But there's a lot of it in this area, and going fast means you need to like bob and weave.
Yeah, this run has had some interesting movement mess-ups due to strange collision.
And the physics in this game is... You don't think about it very often playing casually, but like in a speed run, when you're trying to collect a lot of momentum and also collisions kill you, it can be pretty frustrating, especially if like get into a reset muck over like a certain area. I've done that before several times.
I'm not sure exactly. Okay. The village that you start in is on the equator, so it's sometimes a bit strange to find where you're trying to go.
And different amounts of sleep kind of point you in different directions relative to the sun. This time there's no
actually
reading to do.
a new strat we recently discovered. We can clip into stuff pretty easily by using the eject, but I didn't want to go for that since I've never really tried it.
Oh, that would be
before.
that'd be crazy. I still haven't tried that. It's super new, like last week, I think.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wait for this, so you can read some donations.
Sure. I've got a $20 donation here from Nick O, who says, "Man, I wish I could wake up and be immediately ready to go like this Outer Wilds character is. I have to wait at least 20 minutes after waking up before I can fly a spaceship." $10 here from Brian Otto. "Hi, Strange Pie. It's been such a pleasure watching you grind and practice this category ahead of this run. Outer Wilds is a game that means a lot to me, like many other folks, and I'm so glad to see you here running it. I appreciate you and your dedication and passion for this game. Best of luck. Also, shout out to the marble with the screaming man inside." I have a $25 donation here from Luke Mercer. "Outer Wilds is my favorite game of all time. So glad I can catch some of this run." And And $25 here from Anonymous. Had to donate during my favorite marshmallow toasting simulator. Love this game. May your quantum objects always find themselves where you need them.
Oh, if only.
Yeah, that would be nice.
All right. And we're all the way back here now. We only needed to read this one thing.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to be doing what remains to be done on Timberhearth, and then we're going to be doing Dark Bramble. We have to do Dark Bramble in 2 trips in this run.
Kind of a spoiler, but I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
we can just explain it when we get there.
Yeah. The short sleep to align the planet better once we get to it. You'll see once we get to the end of Battle Rock and take off for Dark Bramble, it'll be right above us. Land on that guy's head, he's fine. We're going to the Nomite Mines. There are these geysers down here that are actually consistent. So if you show up at the same time every time, this actually works out pretty well. First we go down into the water and back up to do the mines.
That's part of the reason for the sleep I did at the beginning of the loop, is to get a good cycle here, but also to get a good Dark Bramble alignment.
And in our load removing system, we freeze the timer during sleep, mostly because there's a hardware limitation. If your computer's not fast enough, like super slow, sleeping takes longer. So we just freeze the timer to make it fair. Otherwise, little sleeps like that probably wouldn't be worth it. There it is. You can actually line yourself up with this entrance to Dark Bramble here and go directly to our next objective without even braking, which looks like is what's
Well,
going
I'm
for
going to
you.
break a little bit, because I'm not...
That's true.
yeah, I don't want
It's not a good idea to...
dive again. Alright.
And then we can scan for this specific express beacon right here.
I do know where I'm going, but using the signal scope just makes it a little bit easier to get more optimal lines, so to speak.
Yeah. And it's also a good backup if you like bump into something and your ship spins out. At that point, you're lost. But scan whatever you need to.
Here's
scan.
like the only use for autopilot in the run. I'm going to use the match velocity function to stop, so that I can set my ship moving forward and get out.
It's a pretty fun strat. It doesn't look fun yet, but it feels good when you open the door and it's right there. Ta-da. Straight to the Nomite grave, and then we're going to the vessel. One of those places in the game where you need to read like one thing and do like one interaction and then
I'm going to go ahead and give a loud noise warning here.
oh yeah, definitely. If you played this game before, you know it's about to happen, but not really. Yep. This is actually consistent. It's super safe, but
It's a lot
It's-
easier as well.
it scares me every
I
time.
know what I'm doing.
And now we're at the vessel. So, big spoiler warning. Like, extreme. If you are ever going to play this game and you haven't already, shut your ears. This area is necessary to finish the game. And because of that, a lot of people will ask us, oh, why don't you just Dark Bramble at the end? The reason is that broken core right there that he put in and took out again. That core needs to be placed back inside of that little container for a shiplog entrance. But we can't do that on the way back in on the second run because we'll have another warp core in our hands and there's nowhere to put it away.
There's the first eject strat in the run.
Yeah, eject strats are great. And this exit takes you directly to this jellyfish. Very convenient. Yeah, there's no way to put that object down to pick up the other object. So we just have to show up twice.
Yep. There's actually some glitches we know of that could get around that requirement, but unfortunately they're far too slow.
This is a really glitchy game once you get into it, but a lot of the glitches just don't save time. Made me nervous there. I hate this tunnel so much. I die so much in here. And this is the last thing in our Dark Bramble loop. I'm gonna fly to Feldspar here.
It's not right. Okay, that's not bad.
Yep.
Now we have the shortest loop. We're gonna do the Zero-G Cave, which is basically a tutorial area.
Yeah, we would do this. There's no other good time to do this just because there's an elevator we take down and it takes forever and we have to take the elevator up as well. So we just quit out instead, get that elevator ride. That's
There's
KFC.
the other eject strat.
Yeah. Launches you directly into the elevator. Never died there, but I'm waiting for the moment that I do. It's so fast.
I think I've died there, but I'm not 100% sure. I've definitely got flung off to the side pretty severely.
Definitely. Yeah, so this is, at this point you're usually not very comfortable with Zero-G. This takes a good 2 minutes to do, but we're speedrunners. You basically have this section routed out too.
Yeah, Beef is the master of this split.
I mean, relatively speaking. I do have actually, you know what? I'll take it. I have the record in Zero-G percent. It's my one record. A little different because you don't have the ship in that category, so there's a bunch of stupid, crazy, weird...
Alright, so now I'm gonna do the loop where I beat the game. So yeah, be warned. And this is the last sleep of the run. And it's gonna be just under 7 minutes in game time, so you can read some donations here.
There should be time for one more donation group as well, though.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Atomic Apples here with a $5 donation. Amazing run so far, Strange Pie. Just want to give a shout out to the whole Outer Wilds speedrunning community. You guys are awesome. Watch out for the yellow triangles. And Soft and Deadly here with $100. Outer Wilds is one of my favorite games of all time. It definitely changed my life. Good luck, The Strange Pie, and shout outs to my amazing QA team, Dino, Alex, and Virginia. Less than 3. Nate here, $50 donation from Nate saying, Outer Wilds is my absolute favorite game. Does 100% include leaving the ship without a suit? Did that so many times.
There's probably a glitch for that. I wouldn't know. You'd have to ask Pi.
No, not really. Yeah, I decided to play this a bit safe because I died so many times earlier in the run. Normally I would have done this sleep longer.
Yeah, there's a good 6 second margin between a safe sleep and a really, really ambitious sleep here. But this should be fine.
Yeah, not an optimal flight, but I played it safe, so...
Lines up pretty well. Jam the ship under the bridge, and so it won't fly off, and then you can work there. So, Spoiler warnings are over at this point. This is the last bit here. So what we're doing in the ending is we're grabbing this warp core, and we're also doing some reading in the bio. But we're grabbing that warp core and we're taking it back to the vessel that just left on Dark Bramble. It needs a working warp core to finish the game. We're also going to input some coordinates, and those coordinates are what we found in the core of Giant's Deep. It's such a random. There's so many possible combinations that it's basically impossible to beat the game on accident. You have to find those coordinates. You have to get to know how to get into that warp area there, and you have to know that the vessel is your final destination. So this will look pretty familiar, except we're skipping directly to the big anglerfish room.
Yep. Normally I would do this faster, but I'm playing it safe for marathon safety.
Okay, loud noise warning again.
Yep. Try to wait a little bit longer here as well.
It's funny how that's the safe strat, because it doesn't look safe at all. It works perfectly.
Alright, so that's the last, like, potentially run-ending thing in the run. There's one other big skip coming up, but it's not super important.
Yeah, there's a backup in like 20 seconds. Or like 30. Yeah. So there's some reading to do in here, and we could have done it earlier, but it's a little bit easier once you put the core in because gravity starts to become active in here, and it's just a lot faster with gravity to jump around. I'm gonna put these coordinates in, and then something in the basement, then we're gonna warp. So coming up is vessel clip. Effectively, it's just gaining momentum and crossing a door before it loads collision. Here it goes. Great setup. Yeah, that
Looks
should
good.
work.
You only get one shot at this because it's loading a different scene. That's actually one of the only places in the game where your save file will save.
Yeah, if you quit out to reset here, you'll just spawn back in the vessel, and you'll have no opportunity to do this clip. So this skips warping directly to the Eye of the Universe, which is the endgame area, and normally you would land on the planet, has like 2.5x gravity, it's crazy slow. We can speed it up somewhat with good scout boosting, but this is just faster. Go directly to the trigger that reaches the next part. Right. So this is probably the last moment for donations, I'd say. There's a good minute or two of waiting from here.
Okay, so we received a $100 donation from Peacebeard, who said, Outer Wilds is one of my favorite games and art pieces of all time. Thanks to the developers for the big feels and to the Strange Pie for the great run today. And speaking of the developers, Mobius Digital has also donated $100. And their comment, Mobius Digital is proud to see our speedrunning community support such a great cause. Eyes emoji. I can only imagine chat's gonna get in with that eyes emoji.
Yeah,
Thank you,
emoji's
Mobius
great.
Digital.
I wonder what that could be referring
I
to.
wonder. They've been teasing a DLC with that eye emoji for the last like 3 months.
You may have even seen said teaser on this stream.
And one more short one. Sightless here giving $300. Thank you for the generosity. Sightless says, here's to the best space exploration game ever made. Thank you, Sightless.
So coming up. Oh, sorry.
One more.
Okay, thank you. Astral Psy donated $50 saying, had to donate for Outer Wilds. Play tested for this game so many times and still can't get those marshmallows cooked right. Best of luck to the runner.
Well, I can.
He's pretty good at that.
But anyway, so now I'm doing this in sequence. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
can-
we spun around in the beginning after all the lights went out. So there's a trigger. We have to look at 3 trees. There are 3 particular trees that are close enough together that you can just spin around. And here's a little skip. We just collect one of these things from a mile away. It's fine. And each of these instruments represents one of the travelers we've spoken to. And the whole in-game sequence is kind of gathering them all together for one last jam. And this last one is Solanum, the quantum moon Nomai that we met. The Nomai are that ancient civilization we've been reading about. So it's kind of weird to find her there, but she's alive, at least once. That's the last little trial here.
Yep.
Time isn't quite up yet, but this is the last thing we have to really worry about.
I'll say when time's gonna be.
I'm gonna enjoy the music for this last bit, I think.
And it wouldn't be Outer Wilds without a marshmallow. This is on a timer.
Perfect consistency on that one. Okay.
So time is going to be when there's like a secondary explosion and there'll be a big green ring that appears. And time.
Right.
Yeah, a few unfortunate deaths, but it went pretty well for the most part. Just a few things I want to say. Thank you to Beef for commentating. Thank you to Beef and Dotso for doing a lot of legwork on the route. I want to thank all the glitch hunters for this game, for all the work they've put in, finding some of this interesting tech. I want to give a big shout out to the Outer Wilds speedrunning Discord. Everyone there is really amazing, friendly, very supportive. A big thank you to Mobius for making such an awesome game. A big thank you to Annapurna for publishing this and many other awesome games, and also for sponsoring this event. So yeah, if you are interested in this game, I would recommend joining the Discord. You can find a link to it on speedrun.com. And also I have a full any percent tutorial, which you can also find on speedrun.com. Yeah. Anything to say, Beef?
Nothing much. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Yep. Thank you, GDQ. Best of luck to all the other runners.
All right, give it up in chat one more time, please, for the Strange Pie there with that wonderful 100% run of Outer Wilds. It's so amazing to take part in this. Thank you very much, and the love and support in the donation comments has been real. As your host, I should briefly mention, remember, we have a bonus game coming up later tonight, and all of these donations, the money toward that, is counting toward our next bonus game. We're trying to hit a total of $1 million raised for Doctors Without Borders before Halo 2 will be added to the schedule later on. But your donations for Outer Wilds were coming in the whole time. I apologize I couldn't get to them all, but I'm going to try to address a few more here. $100 from Anno Desu saying, only just learned there would be an Outer Wilds run today and felt that was as good a time as any to donate. Hey, thank you for that. Also have a $500 here from Ma Snyder, who said, had to donate during Outer Wilds. Beautiful game that I encourage folks to explore at their own pace when they get the chance. Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that. And Summer Games Done Quick 2021 Online will continue shortly, right after this brief break.
Hello, everyone.
And we have returned here at SGDQ 2021. Thanks for keeping it tuned here. I was really enjoying the music during that break. Got another banger alert, right? I have a $5 donation here from Anonymous saying, the OC remix music is very cool. I agree. Just wanted to acknowledge that. Having a wonderful time listening in on these break screens. And right now, without further ado, I would like to deliver an interview to you. We have Kung Fu Fruit Cup speaking with Doctors Without Borders' very own John Holland. Take it away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Summer Games Done Quick Online 2021. I am Kung Fu Fruit Cup once again here with you all, and I am joined by John Holland, who is a logistics and operations coordinator with MSF. How are you doing today, John?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and chat with y'all.
Yeah, of course. Well, we love talking about just anything about the charity. Like, we love talking with people at the events or with MSF. So it's great to speak with you. And I wanted to know a little bit more about what logistics and operations coordinator means, because not everybody's going to have insight on that.
Sure. So the logistics side is actually kind of how I initially jumped into my work with MSF. And the logistics in the humanitarian sector kind of encompasses literally everything that makes a project run. So from putting fuel in a generator to making sure that our oxygen concentrators are working properly and that the medical staff have what they need to actually provide the care that we do. When we're in an emergency response setting, everything is very critical. It's very time sensitive. And so the logistics team is there to make sure that all of that effort is taken away from the medical side so that they can focus on their patients. Okay. Operations is a more recent thing where it's more about the entire project. So you can kind of think of it as more of a project manager's position. And I'm in a little bit of a hybrid situation there right now where I'm kind of doing multiple hats.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like a lot, like just like it encompasses a lot of different things, like a lot of oversight and just probably a lot of work.
It's a lot of sweating. It's a lot of
Yeah.
sweating and a lot of shorts, shorts and sweating. That's pretty much that summarizes my work with MSF.
Okay, a lot of shorts. So
I
are you just out on the scene all the time? Like on the field then?
Yeah, generally speaking, when we're out, whether I'm in a capital position, so we usually have a capital in a country where we kind of quarterback all of our projects throughout the country from, or whether I'm in the field, generally speaking, I'm the first to get the sweaty, not just because of my lovely luscious size, but also because of the fact that I'm also pushed into the situations where we need to keep things running, and that is usually in tropical hot areas without air conditioning, and it's a lot of manual time. I work with absolutely wonderful teams everywhere
Yeah.
we've been. We have these absolutely just committed local employees we're there working side by side with them, and they bring all the experience, they bring all of this wisdom and knowledge, and I'm just there to kind of help push the ball a little bit further down the court. And I generally do that with my hands and my back and a lot of sweat.
Well, I would say that like having somebody to help manage all of that is always extremely useful. And so I think it's a great thing to be able to be in that position to offer that kind of support and management and aid to anybody who needs it. I can't say the weather circumstance would sound like my favorite thing, but I would say overall, I'm sure it's like incredibly worth it. And again, you said that the people are so nice to work with, which is awesome to hear. But how would you say like you like okay, first of all, how long have you been working with MSF? And then what do you think like inspired you to join?
So I was working with a different NGO, more on the development side, so more kind of being planted someplace for a longer period of time to work on a specific project,
Mhm.
which is great. And there's a lot of wonderful NGOs out there doing development work. When Ebola hit in 2014 is kind of when I applied for the position. That was a kind of a trigger moment for me where I needed to be a part of that. I needed to kind of reapply my skill set in a more emergency focused setting. And so I applied with MSF at that time, and I was actually very fortunate. My first project with MSF was in an Ebola context in Liberia, and I found it not just hugely rewarding, but also hugely challenging. There was a lot for me to absorb. There was a lot I had to learn very quickly on the ground. But at the end, when I came out the other side, I just felt so much more, I guess, equipped and fortunate to have that opportunity. And again, just working with wonderful, lovely people and hearing their stories and doing my best to kind of pay homage to them with my effort and being as respectful as possible. And I went out again to the field 2 weeks later, as soon as that project was done.
Wow.
And I did it again. I was back for 2 weeks, and I went out to South Sudan for a year. And
For a
it
year?
was, yeah, I was in South Sudan for a year. That was a very, very challenging context, but again, very rewarding. And I felt very fortunate to have an opportunity to do that.
For sure. Was that still related to Ebola or was that a different thing?
Yes, it was. So we have a longer footprint in South Sudan. It's such an evolving and dynamic context that projects are propping up and going down quite frequently all over the country. And so I was there in the capital, kind of overseeing the logistics operations for the whole country, with a larger team. And it was the 1 year was necessary so that you can kind of bring some institutional knowledge and have a little bit of consistency for a period of time. As you can imagine, as we start to go into context and change personnel relatively quickly, some things can kind of get lost. And while that's really critical and important during an emergency setting, when you have a project that's been going on or been open for such a long time, you kind of want to have a little more stability. So the 1 year commitment really helps provide a little bit more of a foundation of knowledge and a little bit easier transfer of that. So that was not quite Ebola, but that was just a different context.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it sounds like you've done a lot. Would you say that there's anything within that really stands out to you? Like maybe it is the first project you work on, but like you worked on with MSF, but like any like memorable experience that you've had since you've been in your position?
Yeah, and actually was in South Sudan.
Okay.
So about halfway through my time in enough to get a break, and I was able to come home and see family. And on my way back to South Sudan, I was actually redirected to Kenya because fighting had broken out in the country, and I couldn't get back in the country. And actually, a majority of our staff had to be evacuated at that time for safety concerns.
Wow.
When I finally did get back into the country, literally was brought from the airport and brought out to a site where we had set up medical operations that were not present prior to my departure. The location is known as a POC, which is a protection of civilians site. And the best way to think of that is a refugee camp that exists within a UN compound. So it's actually like a protected refugee camp.
Okay.
A very complex situation for many different levels, but actually it ended up being a model that was used throughout the country of South Sudan. I was in there and I was tasked with essentially operating and running a surgical unit that was there to help people that were injured during the fighting. And while we were there, a Interpol, because Interpol is policing the area, an Interpol officer had come up with a woman that was holding a small child and said that she thought she needed help. We brought her in, this very small child that I thought was a baby, maybe a year or two old, I think was actually 3 or 4 years old, and had a bullet wound in her upper bicep, and had actually suffered the bullet wound on the complete opposite side of the country, and somehow made it on a flight that dropped her at an airport. And then she just figured out somehow to make her way to this protection of civilian site, hoping to find somebody that would help this child, who ended up being, we ended up finding out was her grandchild. Her mother had been killed previously. We were able to save the child's life. We did have to amputate the arm, but as a result of us having a surgical setup on site and being available in that area, and it just so happens this woman was able to find us, we were able to not just save this little girl's life, but kind of bring a little bit of security and peace to her, because they were able to kind of post up and relax and recuperate a little bit. And it was just such a, I mean, it really hits you. It's such a traumatic experience. I couldn't even possibly imagine to be on the other side. And I just felt fortunate that we could provide some amount of solace for her and for her grandchild.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see why that was impactful for you. But yeah, I mean, like, thank goodness that you had that team out there that was able to help. And I'm sure there have been many more situations like akin to that you've been able to provide aid for, which is fantastic. That's part of why MSF is so great. Now I wanted to know, before I let you go, I know that you've also moved in to do some work in the US because of COVID. Can you tell us just a quick thing about what's been going on with that?
Yeah, so COVID was a very unusual time, I think, for everybody in the world, as we're well aware. And traditionally, MSF has never worked in the U.S. before. It's not really a setting where we would normally be needed. We have a health infrastructure here and so on and so forth. But I think COVID really caught the world off guard. And so I was, again, very fortunate to oversee a project that was taking place in New Mexico, working with some of the Pueblo communities out there. And these are communities these are nations that are within our borders of people who unfortunately are in a position where they kind of have to fend for themselves to some extent. And so some of these communities are from a few hundred people, and that represents the entirety of their culture. And so when you have COVID coming in and you have 30-40% infection rate, you can imagine there's a very quick buildup of fear that kind of goes along with that, and uncertainty, and just like what's going on. And so we had a really good opportunity to work again side by side with these communities to help them understand the challenge that was present around them, put forth methodologies and practices to help mitigate transmission, and just a better understanding of how they can look after each other and look after their households. And we were really fortunate to see a fairly significant drop in transmission rates in that short period of time that we were able to be out there. It was really fulfilling.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, thank you so much for all your work that you've done, both in the US now to help with, some crises, emergencies, and then all around the
Yeah.
world. It sounds like your work has really taken you everywhere.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on. And I really want to thank everybody that's competing. I mean, this is it's been really, really helpful, and to have kind of the what is it, like a decade that we've been involved with you guys. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just wonderful to have that community to call on and kind of have in our corners, so to speak.
Right, of course. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much, John. Again, this was John Holland with MSF, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you for telling us your stories and your experiences. And we are going to hand it back off to let you all enjoy the rest of the runs of the marathon. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right, my thanks to John and Kung Fu Fruit Cup for that interview. Thank you. Yeah, thanks very much. I've got a donation here, $10 from Iggy Zig, who says, I'm here to upgrade to Chaos. Less than 3. Thank you, Iggy Zig. Yes, referring to the Charlie Murder incentive open right now to upgrade the run to Chaos difficulty.